Hey guys, Eclipse14 here. Alright, GameCube time. So, since my original collection video, I've only added one additional game, which is second from the bottom. Given the fact that GameCube has gotten very expensive in recent months, and I haven't really changed anything apart from the additional games since then, I haven't really played any of these games too often either. I'm just going to go through my 21 games rather quickly and be done with it. If you notice, my tower is a little bit awkward looking, and that's because the cases are open on the top. This is just so I can open them with just my one hand without having to put pressure on them and crack them open, because that actually would take two hands to do. So, that being said, let's go ahead and just jump into the top of the tower. First off is the launch title Luigis Mansion, which has everything with it. I paid only 15 bucks for this and a copy of the Primer Strategy Guide for Super Mario 3D Land on 3DS. Now, one thing I'll note, every one of my GameCube games has at least the disc and the manual with its case. Sometimes there's inserts, like this one has, for example. If I can just flip this here. Yep, there we go. The reason for this is because manual is just so I can actually figure out how to play the game while I'm on my way back. And the disc with the case is just because it has its own case, and I don't have it just sitting around somewhere getting dusty or getting scratched up for whatever reason. There's a reason why I actually take care of my stuff like I do. So, don't have too much to say about this. Only played it for a little bit and haven't really returned to it since. I should complete this sucker, though. But I'll get to that when I can. Next up is Mario Kart Double Dash. As you can see, it includes the bonus disc, which is correct here. If I can get it open, there we are. As you can see, there are two discs. The main disc is right here with some writing on it, and the bonus disc has a little writing on it. I've been trying to find a replacement copy of this for a while, and the reason being is because, well, first off, clean up the writing on top of the disc, but the bonus disc is a bit scratched up to the point where some of the data for some of the bonus games, the demos, don't function on some of them, which is rather unusual. It's got the manual, and Mario Kart being Mario Kart, I completed this game very quickly. Sonic Gems Collection. This game features three major games, being Sonic the Fighters, or Sonic Championship, which was an arcade fighter, Sonic CD, which I've got on Sega CD since then, when I first bought this long ago, and Sonic R, which, believe it or not, I've never seen a copy of on Sega Saturn, which is rather strange. As well as a couple other Game Gear games that I've also picked up over time. So, I've completed everything in this game. Every bit of the museum was done, so don't have too much to say about it. It's just basically an anthology of some of the lesser-known titles that Sonic actually had. Sonic Riders, I played quite a bit, and recently, like 2 years ago, I think, I completed the sucker 100% for the first time ever after goofing around for so long. It's an okay racing game. It's not too bad. It's rather, there's not that many stages though, and that kind of bums me out. Battle mode's also very easy to handle. You can just run around and goof off while all the opponents end up killing each other. And, that's really all I got to say about this game. It's not a bad game, but, there's better racers. Come on. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I recently played this one a little bit more in terms of actually trying to get all the medals in the game to 100% it. Currently, I'm not too far behind. There's just a couple A-rank missions I gotta pick up, as well as a few Chao Garden emblems that I need to pick up as well. Fortunately, I have a pretty powerful Chao to handle some of that. And hopefully I won't have too big a time sink when it comes down to getting the final emblems. But I've had this game for a really long time, put a lot of time into this sucker, and I just can't wait to finally 100% this game once and for all. But God knows when I'll have the time to do that now. Alright, first cut complete. Next up is Bomberman Generation. This is, I haven't played this one very much. What I do remember of it, though, is that it plays somewhat like Bomberman 64, which is an adventure I definitely am familiar with. But I didn't understand the story very much because it was just a, later I would end up finding out that it's a continuation from Saturn Bomberman on Sega Saturn, which I've never played. So, if I'd find that game, that would actually be pretty awesome. But until then, Generation's actually not bad from the little time I actually played for it. I really should give it a little bit more time. As usual, disc and manual is pretty much it. Burnout 2 Point of Impact. I have completed this game. It definitely feels a little bit different compared to Burnout 3, which is an amazing game. Unfortunately, GameCube didn't have Burnout 3, although it was supposed to. So Burnout 2 just felt a little different. I think the one thing that annoyed me was the fact that there was a time limit for pretty much everything, and you just had to run everything quickly, and I don't kind of like that. Despite that, I 100%ed the game, completed everything. It's not that bad, actually. It's not easy to find, too, but it's also kind of cheap. I think it's like 15 bucks these days. Not too bad. Tales of Symphonia. This is a 2-disc adventure that I've completed. Took me about 48 hours, I think, to clear it the first time. Suffice to say, it was a pretty good adventure. It was the first Tales game I completed all the way through, although it wasn't my first taste of Tales. That would be Tales of Eternia. Other than that, I don't have a huge amount to say, because it's been 3 years since I last played it, because that was when I finally beat the game. I do know that it is a rather good adventure in the Tales series, and I would recommend it, but when it comes down to role-playing games in general, there are a couple other games that I definitely found to be more fun than Tales of Symphonia in terms of adventure. Alright, second cut complete. Next up is Zoids Battle Legends. This one I don't have a lot to comment on, because I only played it for like an hour, and that was about it. What I do know about the series is that it's basically a bunch of mechanical monsters and whatnot. Well, I wouldn't say monsters, but in any case, this thing has been in the $40 range for quite some time, and this is the only copy I've ever seen of it. I've heard it really wasn't that common, so I did pick it up when I had known it was pretty rare. But when it came down to playing it, I didn't really have a whole lot of fun with it. Maybe I should just give it a second chance and figure it out for myself, because I didn't play that much for it to begin with. I just wanted to make sure it worked, and I've just had it sitting to collecting dust since then. Baten Kaitos Eternal Wings in the Lost Ocean. This was an adventure I enjoyed. It's another 2-discer, and the combat system is more based off of cards compared to just normal, how normal role-playing does. So this one definitely caught my attention because I had learned about it from another video, found the game, picked it up, actually put in quite a bit of time, and then had screwed up and had to redo it again. And I really enjoyed this game, and I definitely recommend it because it's different in terms of role-playing because you're dealing with cards to do your commands. And I'm still looking for Baten Kaitos Origins, because that's a prequel that's supposed to be pretty difficult, and I haven't had a copy of that since, I haven't found a copy that really met my expectations. It was always just discs in the case. I was wanting at least the manual as well. So, hopefully I'll get that when the time comes, but with GameCube being as expensive as it is, that might not be happening anytime soon. Definitely recommend this game, though. It's an awesome game. Chaos Field. This is a very difficult shoot-'em-up. It's kind of in the lines of, like, Radiant Silvergun and Ikaruga. Ikaruga is on the GameCube as well, and I'd seen only a single copy of that. This is also the only copy of Chaos Field I've ever seen. From what I know, Ikaruga is much more well-known than Chaos Field is, but Chaos Field is also just as brutally freaking hard as Ikaruga is. Ikaruga is definitely more well-known, but this one is just absolutely ridiculous. This one isn't terribly expensive either. It's still also in about the $40 range. I myself had to pre-order it for about $25, which wasn't too bad, but it was also very difficult to find online because there weren't that many copies compared to Ikaruga. Very glad I have it, but my god is it difficult. Alright, had to cut to reset my back. Next up is Kirby Air Ride, which is a fantastic racing game. You've got 3 different game modes. You've got Air Ride, which is the normal racing mode, Top Ride, which is the arcade-style racing mode, and City Escape, which is just pure absolute chaos while you upgrade whatever machine you picked up and use that to compete in events. This game nowadays runs about $45 to $50. Yeah, I actually paid $20 for this one. And this is a game that I would love to see remastered solely for City Escape because I had so much fun with this game. All the missions have been completed across all 3 modes, which was not very easy to do for some of them, but I eventually pulled it off, and suffice to say, I would play through this entire game again. And if their remaster ever comes out, I would love to have this thing because I would love to see City Escape go online just for the chaos. FZero GX. This is a brutally difficult game, especially in terms of story, but fortunately I have completed this sucker, but it took several months to finally pull it off. It is a very fluent, very fast game. Nowadays, it's, again, like Kirby Air Ride, about $40 to $50. But I am happy I got it, and it's also one of the few games I have that has inserts. I really wish there was a new F-Zero game, because I played the first one on Super Nintendo. I haven't played F-Zero X all that much, and I don't own a cartridge of that yet. GX actually turned out to be pretty cool. I really hope a new F-Zero game comes out soon, because I really like GX, despite how brutally hard the story was. Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventure. I have beaten this game, but it was not for a long time before I made my first serious attempt, because I got stuck on several stages. Anywho, I've had this one for a while with the case and the manual. Nowadays, this thing runs about $50, which I expected from Zelda. This is actually a pretty neat adventure. I've never played the Shadow Battle mode, because I play most of my stuff alone anyway, and that requires multiplayer. The only problem I really have with this game is that in order to use a Nintendo GameCube controller, it must be single player. Otherwise, you have to use a Game Boy Advance, which I always found to be very strange. But the game is still fun in terms of Hyrulean adventure, and I would recommend it just because the story is actually not too bad. And we got The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess on GameCube. I've played a slight bit of this long ago before I got my own copy, and this is complete with inserts. I have yet to beat this game. I got to one point where I ended up turning into a Wolf Link and got stuck. Not at the very beginning, but a little bit later on. I didn't know where to go, and I just got stuck, and I haven't really been back to play it since. Twilight Princess is said to be one of the better, storylines when it comes down to, the franchise, and that's kind of a shame that I haven't been able to complete it. So, hopefully, at some point in time, I will get the chance to complete the sucker soon. These days, Twilight Princess runs about 50 minimum. I've seen them go as high as 65. So I am glad I picked this up when I did, although it took quite a bit of time before I finally got a completed copy of this sucker. Next up is Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem. I haven't touched this game all that much, because I wasn't too fond of the whole idea. I played it to make sure it worked, and that was really about it. I've heard it was actually not too bad, and the fourth wall breaking is absolutely completely insane, but I've just never had a real serious attempt at trying to play the game. So I've had it sitting here for a while, but I am glad I picked it up, because nowadays it runs about $65, which is... At one point, I actually saw it at that price at one point in time, and I bought that while it was dipped down into, like, 25, 30 bucks. But now that it's climbed up, it makes me glad that I picked it up while there was still a lull in there. I'll play it at some point, but when it comes to GameCube, I think Twilight Princess will probably be high priority. Subsequently, I've got Pikmin II, which was also in its own little lull, and it was about $30. Definitely didn't get it during the GameStop days, which I should have, but I wasn't too fond of the whole idea of the series back then. So I just left it be, and eventually Pikmin 2 just spiked up in price, and I was like, okay, maybe I might want to take a look. This one also has its inserts under the manual, and other than that, again, it's like Sanity's Requiem. I only played it for a handful of minutes, and that was really it, just to make sure that it worked. I do need to play the first Pikmin, though, because I've never done that, and, I'll just see how the series turns out. In any case, this thing is now at least 60 bucks, and, it makes me glad that I picked it up when there was a lull period. Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. Now, this one I haven't really played as much as the PS1 version, due in part to the fact that I had the PS1 version for far longer. This one was mostly around because I had known that it was actually kind of expensive for a little bit of time. Not as high as it has been this year, though. These days, it's running like $70, $75, and that's for a Black Label copy, not the Player's Choice. If you notice, none of my games are Player's Choice, and that's just pretty much by absolutely pure coincidence, really. It wasn't because I was hunting them down. It was more by actual coincidence. As you can see, I have both discs. They're actually in very good shape, but I'm not going to take them out because I don't want to use just a single hand to do this while I'm holding a camera. And it is got the manual and everything, and overall it looks good, apart from the case still having a GameStop sticker that I still need to clean up. These days, I've seen it run about $70, $75, so it makes me real glad I picked this up when it was only about $25, $30. So that's a good sign. Alright, one last cut. Next up is Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. At one point in time, I owned this game for just $3. Nowadays, it's like $80 upwards to $100 in some instances, which is absolutely ludicrous. This is the second copy of Pokemon XD I owned, which was actually the second GameCube game I ever played. The first was Sonic Mega Collection, which I've since sold off. This one comes with the inserts. My original one actually had the manual also, but no inserts. Don't know exactly why I sold it off at one point, but I ultimately did. I have beat this story quite a number of times, never really did a huge amount otherwise, because it was a pretty interesting story. I've never played Pokemon Colosseum, but this is supposed to be a successor to Colosseum in story, but it's a neat storyline. Definitely enjoy the whole shadow mechanic, and this is actually the latest generation I played of Pokemon, because I'm not too big a fan of the series, and I've said that quite a few times. But I do like this story, and I like the mechanics and the line of everything in general. If you can find this game, it's actually a pretty neat story, and I'd recommend checking it out. Lost Kingdoms 2. This is the new addition to my GameCube collection. I still need to get the first game. I have yet to do that, but that game's about $25 to $30, and I can pick that up easily. This one cost me $65 at a time where it's now upwards of $120 complete. So I picked it up at the right time, but one game I missed ended up becoming as costly as well. That was Skies of Arcadia Legends, which is probably my biggest regret when it comes to games I should have picked up. I don't mind this game, however. I played it for about an hour and a half, though, but there's not a whole lot of things really going on that'll help me out. So far, I do like the game, but again, I've only played it for about an hour and a half since I picked it up. Not a whole lot to really help me out, so if I can find something that'll actually just give me a guide as to where to go next and everything, I can probably figure it out and eventually beat this game, because at the moment, I do like how this game plays, and I also do need to play the first game, so I'll get the first one when I can, but I'm glad I picked this up when I did before things got super, super expensive. $120 is ridiculous. 65 is bad enough. Speaking of $65, though, that's about as much as I paid for this one. Phantasy Star Online 1 and 2 Plus. This is my rarest GameCube game. Take note, Plus. This one has the manual. I originally bought it with just the disc and case. I found the manual a little bit later for about as much as I paid the frickin' game and case for, which was 45 and then 20, 40 and then 25 for 65 total. For a game that at that time was still about $100 and is still maintaining that position, actually even higher at this point. I think I've seen 150 in some instances. I have played this game a little bit. I owned Phantasy Star Online on Dreamcast, and I played that a good chunk more than this one, so I kind of had the feeling with this one. The difference between 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 Plus is simply the fact that there are some online minigames that were imprinted into the main game so you could play them offline rather than have to go online. And that's really the only difference between 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 Plus is. So it's mostly just DLC imprinted into a different disc. Not a whole lot going on, but it is a very expensive game, a very difficult game to find, and I'm very glad I picked it up, considering even the base 1 and 2 is very expensive, but 1 and 2 Plus is just outrageous. And I'm very glad I picked it up. I actually play this game for Episode 2, since I play Episode 1 on the Dreamcast. And with that said, that's actually all the games for the GameCube, but there's one more thing I have to show. And that just so happens to be a loose Game Boy player. Now, I'm showing you this one because it's the loose one I have. I actually own 2 Game Boy players, as well as 2 Game Boy player discs. However, currently I don't know where one of them is, and the other one's actually in the living room because my dad used it to play Tetris 2 on his Game Boy player. But I've told him to be very careful with that because that disc these days is going over $100, and God knows how much the Game Boy player itself is costing. Considering you need that to actually play this is kind of justified. Now, both of them do work. This one does work. I'll show it at some point if you guys would like me to make a video on that. But I figured I'd just show this out because I know these things have become very costly, and having two of them is absolutely incredible. Alright, and with that said, that is my Nintendo GameCube collection. Gonna take a week, gotta do something for a little while, but when I come back, I'll start my Nintendo Game Boy collection. I'll start my handheld setup. So, with that said, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.